Back. Sorry for a couple minutes late. Mr. Payne, could you please read us back in closed session?
Yes. I move that this council certified by a recorded vote that to the best of each council member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Please cast your votes. Is everyone logged in to be able to do that?
Not yet. We can do a voice vote.
Voice vote?
Yes?
Yes.
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 Okay, we will begin the business meeting with a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Are there any announcements? I have one from Page Hill. Okay. This is an announcement from Page Hill, a committee member of Chahamba. If possible, can you please make this announcement, please? The African American Cultural Arts Festival will take place this Saturday, July 26th at Jackson P. Burley Middle School from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's a phone number and I'll just give the email address, seedsofculture@gmail.com. Okay? Any other announcements?
Beyond announcements, board, commission,
Oh, yes, please.
2 appointments to make to the CRHA board, Lise Clavel. Sorry?
Speak up, we can hear you.
Sorry, my apologies. For boards and commissions appointments, appointing Lise Clavel and Galette Rosenblith to the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority Board.
Do we need to vote on that? We need to vote on
I don't think so.
No?
Well,
Yes.
that's a motion,
That's a
and
motion.
then we need to vote on it.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And is this, are we logged in?
Voice.
All in favor?
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes, thank you. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the mayor is out, so I'm here in his place, and then we have Councilor Snook is with us remotely, obviously. We're at the point of community matters. There are 5 pre-registered speakers, leaving slots for 11 additional speakers on community matters. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. I'll now open the floor to pre-registered speakers as our first speaker available. Kim Basil-Wood.
I'm not Kim, but I'll go first.
Okay?
I don't mess her up if I don't. Anyway, my name is Gordon Hare. I run a foundation, Ben Hare Just Swim for Life. The last time I was here was about, I guess, 7 years ago with the same plea of trying to offer Learn to Swim and improve the drowning problems in Charlottesville. For the YMCA, we were successful and a Y was built. And it has increased or improved the better health outcomes, but I don't think it really has addressed the demographics that I tend to attract. Fry Springs Beach Club lets me use their pool because I bring a demographic that they can't attract, and ACAC allows me to have some swim lessons at their pool for the same reasons. My demographic leans heavily towards non-white and low-income kids. Probably 82% now is a non-white demographics. I just recently signed a contract with the YMCA to teach all of the second graders in Charlottesville, Albemarle, Louisa, and Greene County how to swim. But it's a 5-lesson, 40 minutes each lesson. And what it'll really do is give an orientation or a beginning to learn to swim, but will probably not teach a second grader how to swim, but it will increase the membership to the Y and will create an interest for many people to learn how to swim. And that's the legacy that I wanted to leave, was to be able to offer swim lessons for everyone in Charlottesville and Albemarle County in my son's name. I have been with Charlottesville Parks and Rec. When Erica Sims ran the Parks and Rec, she gave me 300 children in the summer to teach how to swim. We ran several years. The 5th graders at Walkersville came down and we taught them how to swim. And I used to, anytime I could find no one at the pool, Parks and Rec would let me use the pool to teach kids how to swim. I presented this to Rob Hutchins in March. It was actually February and March, that Charlottesville does not do a good job of teaching children how to swim.
Okay, you're,
Am my 3 minutes up?
yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got another person.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe.
Are
Hi,
you-
my name is Kim, so I
Okay.
am Kim Basile Wood,
Okay.
and I am part of the Ben Hare Just Swim for Life Foundation. It is imperative, as over 6 children have already drowned in Central Virginia this year, this summer, that we continue to teach children how to swim. It is a real big thing that the city could do, because we have 131 children who are learning how to swim in the Fry Spring Pool right now. People of color, people of different nationalities, people of all sorts of backgrounds. And to be frank, there are 20 pools in Charlottesville, Virginia. 17 are privately owned. So none of these children would learn how to swim without Ben Hare Just Swim for Life. The 3 pools that are of public would cost a family of 5 over $25 or $30 just to go on a daily basis. So what we're trying to do right now is potentially go with the Crow Pool. The Crow Pool is your pool. We would like to rent the pool, and when we rented the pool last year, it was at an exorbitant rate. We'd also love to buy the pool, but we would decline that. So what we're trying to do is just ask you all to help us help the children of Charlottesville. We are teaching lessons to the Boys and Girls Club. We are teaching lessons to Southwood. We are teaching lessons to everyone, but we are not getting the support that we feel like we could from the community if we just came forward and said, we need your help. And that's really what we're doing today, is we're coming forward to say, these children are not going to learn how to swim. These children are going to potentially be drowning victims. These children and their lives and their families deserve. I teach Mommy and Me every Sunday and Saturday mornings. It shouldn't just be to pretentious white people that I'm teaching these lessons. It should be to everyone in the community. Everyone should be afforded the opportunity for this. And so that's why we're coming today, to ask you to please rent the pool to us at a reduced rate, or even sell the pool to us, and we will raise the funds if we have to. But what we want to do is teach the children how to swim.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, I'm sorry, next up is Alicia Lanahan.
Thank you. My name's Alicia Lenahan. I'm a county resident. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to start by thanking Councilor Payne for his presence and remarks at the Good Trouble Lives On event last Thursday. There are approximately 11 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. Undocumented immigrants are generally not eligible for Medicaid or CHIP. However, those who meet other eligibility requirements like income can receive coverage for emergency medical services. In March 2025, over 78 million people in the U.S. were enrolled in Medicaid. Of that number, nearly 50% constituted child enrollment. Why are those numbers, 11 million and 78 million, important? Last Monday, the government gave ICE access to the records of all the people on Medicaid, allegedly to enable ICE to find undocumented immigrants who aren't even eligible for the program. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services signed an agreement that enables ICE to access Medicaid recipients' name, ethnicity and race, birth date, home address, and social security number. The administration is gathering and consolidating personal data so it can exert power and control. ICE is using surveillance technology and data collection as part of its mass deportation efforts. That laser-like focus is going to be turned on more and more of us. In the Charlottesville metropolitan area, just over 22,000 people are covered by Medicaid. ICE now knows who and where they are. We are deeply concerned about the aggressive, cruel overreach demonstrated by the federal administration on a daily basis. Our immigrant and refugee neighbors are the most vulnerable. However, numerous reports and video evidence show that U.S. citizens and immigrants with lawful status have been detained, questioned, or targeted, exacerbating distrust and public safety risks. We are offering a resolution modeled after the one passed by Huntington Park, California, that condemns non-transparent federal immigration enforcement tactics and affirms our community safety principles. You each have a copy. Use this resolution to state unequivocally that the City Council believes that non-cooperation must not be confused with inaction, and that Charlottesville Police and City staff will proactively work within legal bounds to document, verify, and safeguard against federal overreach. Use this resolution to state unequivocally that the City of Charlottesville is committed to the rule of law, civil rights, and the safety and dignity of all its residents, regardless of immigration status. We're also circulating a petition that members of the audience can sign in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Emily Kingsley.
My name is Emily Kingsley, and I live in the Fry Springs neighborhood on stolen Monacan land. I'm here to say that the people of Charlottesville are paying attention and that we will not condone complicity with ICE or with the Trump regime in any form. The Legal Aid Justice Center warns on its website that many local governments, even including many who are otherwise pro-immigrant, go above and beyond to make it easier for ICE to detain and deport immigrants. This is unconscionable, and Charlottesville must not go in that direction. It is good that Police Chief Kopchas has said that CPD will not cooperate with ICE, and it is essential that this policy remain in place. But I want to see the city take an even more decisive stand against ICE. Approving the resolution that was presented tonight would be one such action you could take. Other cities have passed similar resolutions and can serve as a model for what those actions might look like. On Tuesday, July 15th, the King County Council in Washington issued a resolution barring county officials from sharing civilian data with ICE and specifying the types of signage that must be posted in county buildings in order to clarify public versus private areas. Last Friday, City Council in Long Beach, California, started an emergency fund to raise money for immigrant families and businesses. It has already raised over $100,000. In Paramount, California, where some of the first major ICE raids took place, the City Council took similar action and put $60,000 of their own funds into that emergency fund. These are just a few examples of what is possible if the city of Charlottesville were to truly live out the values it so proudly professes. I know there are myriad complications and factors to consider, but I also know that this city can make things happen very quickly when there is enough pressure on it to do so. And this pressure will inevitably come from the governor and from the federal government as they continue to turn up the heat. But if the forced removal of Jim Ryan shows us anything, it is that compromising with fascists won't save you. King County Councilmember Teresa Mosquedo observed that local jurisdictions must in this moment be the last line of defense. And I call on the Charlottesville City Council to put up those defenses, to approve the no collusion with ICE resolution, and to invest as many resources as possible into the systems of support that already exist within this community. Another world is possible if we are brave enough to build it.
Malva Manigan?
Hi, I am here with the Ben Hare Foundation as well. I am one of the instructors for Ben Hare, and I've worked with them for about 3 years now. And I want to kind of reinforce what we've been talking about, the Ben Hare Foundation. I teach safety to adults and teenagers that go from being terrified of being in the water to having the ability to be in the deep end and grab a wall if they are in trouble. I'm also teaching parents and teenagers how to enjoy the water safely, showing them different games that we can play, showing them how to stay safe, how deep is it too deep to be, and also reinforcing a skill, something that maybe someone already knows how to do, how can we improve it and make it better. I have seen a teen go from not barely doing the doggy paddle to doing a triathlon in the course of a year and a half or less. I think it's an important skill. I didn't grow up in this town, but I did grow up around the sport of swimming. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a team that looked like me, and it was plus 30 individuals. And I think that it's important to have the sport of swimming in the life of children that are surrounded by so many lakes, creeks, and pools in this town. I'll also say it opens the doors for a career path in some ways. There are many jobs that go without being taken in all the different pools in this town, for lifeguards, pool managers, and instructors. And also is a path for academic growth, because you can develop your academics with a scholarship in a sport of swimming. I don't have anything else to say.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we have a space for 11 more people to speak. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Mr. Cox?
Kevin Cox. I live at 311 Fairway Avenue. After I used spray chalk to put a crosswalk down, a protest crosswalk, down on Elliott Avenue, the city came and painted over the chalk with some kind of black paint. A couple days later, it rained. Well, the city had claimed that that was white paint, and the black paint probably would have bonded to it, but it was chalk. When it rained, the black paint that was on top of the chalk and had not bonded washed off, revealing the chalk lines underneath it, which have now washed away completely. All that's left is a stencil from the blacking revealing the gray pavement underneath it. The gray pavement indicating my lines. They're kind of ghost lines of my work. It didn't work. The paint didn't work. But I am being charged $607 for the paint that didn't work. Here's the money. There's a receipt in the envelope. You can sign it now or mail it to me. Thank you.
Who's next? Reverend Joyner.
Hi, Councilors. I'm Alex Joyner. I'm pastor of Charlottesville First United Methodist Church and a regular rider on the 5, 7, and 11 buses, and co-president of Impact, which is an interfaith organizing group representing a diverse group of 27 congregations in Charlottesville and Albemarle. I'm also a resident of the county who works downtown. I want to thank the members of the City Council for your continuing to identify transportation as one of your top priorities in the city budget. I know you face many difficult decisions about balancing priorities, and I heard Councilor Pruitt say at this afternoon session how the current needs of the bus transit system may force you to decide about whether to make it a higher priority in order to meet the lowest thresholds of goals in the SOP that was presented by City Transit Director Garland Williams this afternoon. Here's what I've learned as a transit rider and as a pastoral leader, listening to a lot of stories from people who depend upon the CAT system. A bus system is one part of a larger transportation network, but it is the backbone of our transit system. It is little d democratic in that people of all types of income, ages, and physical abilities can access it. It is an investment in our common good. It improves our quality of life, affordability, traffic conditions, and our overall economy. It's essential to a good community. Second thing I've learned is that an underdeveloped, under-resourced bus system is a tragic waste of money. Garland Williams noted that the reliability of buses leads to increased ridership, and he went on to note that CAT's current on-time performance is about 68%, a figure that he himself called abysmal. What it means in human terms is that real people miss doctor's appointments, are late for work, they stand at bus stops with refrigerated groceries and produce going bad, and just generally get ticked off. Your options in situations like that are to spend money you may not have on an alternative like Uber, or to give up on the system altogether. What that means is that empty seats could go by that could have been filled by willing commuters, and that is a waste. What we heard this afternoon is that our system needs 90 drivers to get to the level of service identified in the 2022 SOP. It needs 108 to get to 30-minute wait times, expanded hours, and Sunday service, all when we have still not gotten to the pre-pandemic levels of service. I get that we're a long way from where we need to be, and that we have a lot of hard choices to make as a community, and you have a lot of hard choices. But I want to urge you to continue to make transportation, and bus transit in particular, a real priority for the lives of real people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who's next? Yes, please.
Good evening. My name is Allison Webb. I live in Albemarle County. I am a retired public health professional, and I am here today to call your attention to some important public benefits which have previously been available to undocumented immigrants and which will no longer be so. This will impact the health and well-being of many individuals and families in the community, and I'd like to call your attention to it. On July 10th, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced a change in a law from 1996, saying that the law had been misinterpreted since then, and that the law had previously allowed illegal aliens to access programs Congress intended only for the American people. With that update, HHS says that undocumented immigrants will no longer be eligible for these public benefits. I'm going to list off those public benefits. It's going to feel tedious because it's a long list. Head Start, mental health and substance use disorder treatment, prevention and recovery support programs. Title IV-E Educational and Training Voucher Program. Title IV-E Kinship Guardianship Assistance Program. Title IV-E Prevention Services, and Title X Family Planning Program. Organizations and programs that serve underdocumented immigrants will also be impacted. Those are Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinics, Community Mental Health Services Block Grant, Community Services Block Grant, Health Center Program, Health Workforce Program, Projects for Assistance in Transition from Homelessness Grant, Substance Use Prevention Treatment and Recovery Services Block Grant. The list is not complete. HHS says it will continue adding to it. To make matters worse, the USDA, which is governed by a different statute, has issued a similar notice about benefits, and here they are. So this means that undocumented immigrants will no longer have access to Emergency Food Assistance Program, Commodity Supplemental Food Program, Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, that's WIC, WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program, Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, Child and Adult Care Food Programs, Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Programs, Special Milk Program, and the Summer Food Services. Obviously, excluding undocumented immigrants from this incredibly long list of benefits will have a tremendous impact on our community, particularly in the areas of childhood education and nutrition. I urge you to spend some time working with local agencies that understand these changes and understand the services to figure out how the city is going to address the needs of those people who now are losing those services.
Thank you so much. Who's next? Yep, come on up.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Rory Stolzenberg. I'm a planning commissioner speaking in my individual capacity, and I'm a resident of Water Street. I'm here to discuss the presentation you received in your 4 o'clock session. It's widely acknowledged in transit planning that the 15-minute frequency interval is an important threshold in a transit service. It's where taking the bus becomes a viable alternative to taking the car or other means of transportation. Where you can go to a bus stop and expect a relatively short wait without having to plan your entire schedule around when the bus comes and enduring long waits if you miss a bus. As you know, during COVID, we slashed service, including all of our high-frequency routes, and predictably, as this chart shows, ridership plummeted. CAT became a system of last resort that you only ride if you have no other alternative. Now our consultants and our transit director would have us believe that civil rights law requires that we restore every route to the lowest common denominator service that still is mediocre and does not provide a viable alternative to cars in order to satisfy our Title I obligations. It's simply not true. For one, this transit strategic plan that you all should recognize, you adopted just a year ago, has a Title VI review included and does not have better than 60-minute service on all lines. That's justifiable because we know that our higher frequency routes serve more disadvantaged areas of the community, including on Georgetown Road and up 29 and in the core of the city. And we know, based on CAT's own ridership surveys from before the ridership plummeting, that even when ridership is higher, that riders of CAT are more disadvantaged than the population at large. And so if we continue with this this line of reasoning, we'll make a massive investment into improving CAT frequencies on every route to merely okay, to not be a viable alternative. We won't recover the ridership that we had before. And one thing that wasn't mentioned in all of that funding discussion is that state revenue or state operating assistance is dependent on ridership, that state funding is not exogenous to what you decide, but rather as ridership increases on a 3-year rolling delay, your funding increases. And so making a choice of spending a lot of money without getting ridership will mean that our funding will continue to decline, in particular because DRPT is currently updating its funding formula so that ridership is more emphasized and spending money without gaining ridership is punished. So you'll be spending more and more money over time just to keep the same mediocre service, whereas if you start with high ridership routes, you'll get more money from DRPT and be able to use that to improve other line service later. I urge you to send the plans, the scenarios, back to the drawing board and come up with a reasonably effective transit system. Thanks.
Okay. Who else would like to speak? Anyone else? Okay, well, that closes community matters for now. There will be a chance at the end of the meeting to speak again if you'd like. Okay. We're now at the consent agenda. Ms. Thomas, would you please read the consent agenda?
Consent agenda number 2, resolution to appropriate Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services Victims of Crime Act grant in the amount of $123,600, second reading. Number 3, ordinance regarding an easement to Dominion Energy for undergrounding of electrical equipment at Penn Park and Quarry Road, second reading. Number 4, resolution to appropriate additional funds for an Emmett Street Corridor Streetscape Project, $1,436,519, first of 2 readings.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I'll move to adopt the consent agenda.
Okay,
Second?
thank you very much. Please cast your votes by voice.
Yes.
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 Yes, yes.
Motion approved.
Motion carries. The motion passes to adopt the consent agenda. Mr. Sanders, is there a report from the city manager's office?
Yes, this evening we have Inez Gonzalez and James Watson. I'm not sure who's presenting. Yes, we're doing Walker presenting the Police Civilian Oversight Board Annual Report. Sorry about that. I gave you your last name, James. Sorry. Yeah, that's true. That's where I mixed it up.
Good evening, councilors, Mr. City Manager, distinguished members of the lead team, as well as the community. My name is Inez Gonzalez. I'm the Executive Director of Police Civilian Oversight. To my left is our Management Analyst, Mr. James Walker. We are here tonight representing the PCLB and presenting to you the annual report. The annual report this year is significantly more comprehensive than last year's report, and as such, I'd like to have Mr. Walker explain to you, as he is the architect of this wonderful document, because of its size. It's about 120 pages total, about 112 pages of actual text, and because of the volume of the annual, we decided to break it down into 4 different components, which I'd like Mr. Walker to discuss with you now, if you'd allow it.
Good evening. Again, I'm James Walker, the Management Analyst for the Office of Police Civilian Oversight. I think I can control, let's see here. Just wanted to go to the table of contents if possible. There we go. Yay, okay. Perfect. So, oh, went too far. So the table of contents of the report lays out the basic structure. It is broken into 4 main sections. There is a section that focuses on the work of the board, the efforts of the board, professional development, summaries from board meetings, as well as attendance and policy revisions and recommendations that the board itself made. Each section also ends, you'll see, with an overcoming challenges portion. This lays out some of the challenges faced, how those have been addressed, and recommendations to move forward from those challenges. The second section is the Office of the Executive Director. This focuses on our work internally in the office, including some of the priorities and strategic initiatives that we have had, as well as professional development that we have completed, and systems and processes that we use to conduct oversight. There is also a breakdown of the PCOB's budget and how funds have been spent, as well as some trends over 3 years, or actually 5 years, I believe. And then finally, again, you see the Overcoming Challenges section. We tried to organize those challenges as it related to the themes in the report of the 4 different sections. The largest section is the next one that focuses on oversight of the police department. In this section, it talks a lot about the internal affairs complaints and cases, ones that we received that came through the PCOB, and the full broad spectrum of all the ones that went through internal affairs directly. A big portion of this are visuals and breakdowns of trends and statistics related to complaints, the allegations, the findings, and the outcomes of those. Additionally, we dive deep into the police department budget, lay out some trends over the past 3 years, and look at how some of those trends, we ask questions about them. We don't make any assumptions or statements. We just say, here's what we see in the data. And then lastly, again, that finishes with the Overcoming Challenges. And then finally, we have a section on outreach and community engagement. There is quite a substantial amount in that as well. It includes everything from events that we have participated in, whether as we were invited to speak or hosted an event, everything to going to community events and going to speak at UVA or answer questions of students at UVA. That has occurred, I believe, once. And so also there is media coverage of the PCOB. So we just document any media coverage locally that specifically spoke to the PCOB or about the PCOB directly. And then as well, we also document all the internal department collaboration that we do with, for example, the Office of Human Rights, as well as with the police department and others. And again, there's an Overcoming Challenges section there as well. This report is posted on our website, and there is going to be a digital appendix. It is in production. It will be posted this week. We're just trying to finalize those documents. And so please use the table of contents as a guide to walk yourselves through this document, and we hope that it is enlightening and it fully displays the work of the board as well as the office. Thank you.
And that was one of the things that we were most proud of as far as this document is because, again, and this is a reason why I specifically hired Mr. Walker. There was a method to my madness. He has made incredible improvements not only to transparency as it pertains to our website. He's actually upgraded the website significantly. And as far as the contents of the annual report, the whole purpose of the digital index is for you to be able to click on a link for a document that we make reference to in our annual and be able to go directly to that document. He also, again, like I said, something that we did this year that we didn't do last year was to be able to get into granular levels of analysis as it pertains to data, our own data as well as the police department's data. Again, as he said, we don't make any assumptions, but we provide enough information so that the reader could look at it and ask questions. It should actually prompt you to be asking additional questions. In addition to that, he is very careful when he provides you with the graphs to the various sections that he's discussing to tell the reader exactly, he provides you with the legend and tells you exactly how to understand what it is you're looking at. And so, and as he said, the most important thing, which I was primarily responsible for, so I take full responsibility for that, was the Overcoming Challenges section, because I've been here long enough to know what works, what doesn't, why it doesn't, and I make very, I think, considerate recommendations as to how it is we can improve our existing situation. And that's all we have, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Questions, anyone? Lloyd?
Nope.
I don't.
No questions.
I don't know if they're necessarily questions, but maybe thoughts, and I know we're not going to solve this tonight, but to me, speaking of overcoming challenges, I think one of the elephants in the room is that the PCOB is not in, an ideal place right now in terms of council has not been able to recruit a quorum of applicants. There's currently not a quorum. I think, I remember when we were looking at case studies of PCOBs around the country, a lot of them had that moment of kind of activist pressure to create it, and then they struggled for multiple years to figure things out. And there was an inflection point in some of them where they either gave up on the idea or they were able to figure it out and get, stick with it. And I feel like we're in that inflection point moment to me. I don't know if you're seeing that in terms of the scale of overcoming challenges. But all of that to say, I wonder if we need a work session between city council, you, and the PCOB at some point to really try to hash all these things out, because to me, there are a lot of big questions about how we systematically recruit board members, but also how the PCOB is going to operate going forward, and being able to incorporate the expertise you've gained in terms of seeing what is working, what isn't working, and how do we work that into like actually changing the ordinance at the city council level. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's...
It makes absolute sense, and you've actually made an old lady's day by saying that, because I think that's something that's long overdue, is having that open conversation with the members of the board, members of the community, but the practitioners. Because I can tell you this, we need look no further than the staff that you currently have to bring to you solutions for how to address this issue. I've been doing this long enough to know what I believe will work and why it doesn't work right now. And so in order for me to get you all to understand, there has to be that opportunity for either myself or Mr. Walker to be able to bring that to your attention. I do address that, and I turn the frown upside down. It's not all negatives in there. We talk about, again, looking forward to how it is we can make this better. But there are some very specific recommendations to things that we saw as a problem, but actually having that open dialogue directly with the city council, I think is a badly needed sort of response to what these issues have been. And, you know, again, recruiting the right people, because here's the problem: the community, the board, and I can say this, again, having done it for over 2 years now, they don't know what they're asking for. They don't know what to ask for. The things that they want are not necessarily doable under the current structure, but they are still doable under a different structure that makes more sense. And so that's what I was hoping to relate to all of you through this annual report. If you actually take the time to read it, you'll see that there's a lot of recommendations to, again, almost immediately improve the situation.
Right, and I appreciate that, and I would humbly request of the city manager, I'm not saying it, you know, when it needs to happen, but I do think we need a work session with city council, PCOB staff, and PCOB board members to figure out on the city council side, how are we actually going to operationalize and implement various recommendations that you all have put forward, because I think until we do that, I think the conversations are just so in depth that I just don't feel like city council is going to get there in terms of making changes at our level until we're able to have an extended conversation, that kind of work session environment. But at least just that's been my interpretation of where things are at. And I do think, and I appreciate you putting this forward. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I feel like it's just coming to us in a moment where the PCOB really is at an inflection point in terms of what's going to happen going forward.
Absolutely. Again, there are things that I can clarify. I know that there has been some conversation where a lot of folks are under the impression that some of the challenges that we're bringing forward are hypothetical in scope, but I assure you that they are not. One of the things, or one of the I guess, actions that drive my recommendations are, I looked at every aspect of the ordinance. So for example, as it pertains to subpoenas, I'm not saying that we can or cannot do subpoenas basically because it's my opinion. I went to the Chief Justice of the City of Charlottesville and had a conversation with him, provided him with a copy of the ordinance and specific questions in advance of that meeting to say, hey, this is what the ordinance says we can do, these are the questions that we have, how do you feel about it? And we walked away with more questions than we had answered. And that's problematic all by itself, because what we think we can do may not necessarily be what we can do. And I think a lot of what transpired was that, which you're right, there was a sort of pressure put on the city council to get this thing done, to get it done quickly. And a lot of the actions that are stated in both the ordinance and the operating procedures that say that there are certain things that we can do with the expectation that the other parties will cooperate, but that's not necessarily the case. So there are things that, for example, it says that the PCOB can make recommendations to the Chief of Police for discipline. We now know that that's not the case because the chief will not accept recommendations for discipline unless there's an internal affairs investigation. But there's a very good reason for that. And, to coin something that the Chief of Police says all the time, and I use this quote all the time, process matters. So it's important for us to do that, but for us to incorporate all of the parties that are going to be involved in this entire process to make sure everybody's on the same page with the same understanding of what it is our responsibilities are. So I thank you for that, I really do.
Yeah, and again, I would just underline, I think my big takeaway is just the need for that kind of meeting for council to be able to figure out and really get into the weeds and finally come to, collective decision on what we're going to do. And two, that it's really vital that we do that because I think the existence, being able to figure this out and make it work is going to be very important to have a permanent institution that I think the mere existence of it will change behavior. And I think we can't, I'm certainly not ready at all to give up on it because I think it plays a vital role in the long term. You know, if we can figure this out and get it as a long-lasting, permanent institution, the value there is immense. So,
Thank you for saying that. I think there are a lot of people in the community who would agree with you and appreciate that you said that. Thank you all very much. Do we have any other questions?
No, but thank you.
Thank you all for having us.
All right, y'all take care now.
So I want to take a couple minutes to add a little bit of context to the 4 o'clock session for members of the public who were not able to tune in to the transit scenarios conversation presented by the transit director and our consultant, Nelson Nygaard. I wanted to, because we ran out of time, just make sure that I framed for council really what our next steps are. The conversation or the presentation this afternoon was really meant to spark conversation for all of you to begin thinking about how to balance the big items that are on your list. I think you got a good taste of what transit costs in the presentation that was made this evening. We are going to take our next step to prepare a presentation for going another layer deeper for the Finance Committee to hear further analysis on this particular subject of transit investment. The goal would be for you to have that information, and with 2 of you being on the council, you'll be able to dive in a little bit deeper, and then we'll help bring the other 3 members of council up to speed. The plan is for that feedback to frame a little bit more of where we're headed, what really the picture looks like, but to also inform the conversation that will occur at your August 15th and 16th council retreat. That retreat is framed around 3 priority areas as you all have identified them for staff of housing, transportation, and schools. There's some big tickets related to all 3 of those categories, which is why I am more or less putting them before you saying, are these your 3 big items for the FY27 budget, so that we can begin doing the work to prioritize making certain investments to meet your expectations. The goal will be in that conversation to then be able to designate those as priority outcome areas that you would like to see reflected in the proposed budget that I will bring you in March of next year. And I will always do my job of requiring that you hear me, at least hear that I said there's a balancing act to all of it. There's a lot of obligation in decisions that you all are making that we need to make sure that we never lose sight of. And when you think about the presentation this evening about transit, we didn't just talk about drivers, although that has consumed much of the conversation. We did hear that there are additional supports that are needed in the ways of other staff to support the fact that more drivers and buses are on the street. We have a need for shelter amenities across our network to protect those individuals as they're waiting for a bus. We have climate action that you all have made a decision that we will invest in and invest heavily in. That now becomes a bit more challenging when you think about the loss of federal support and how we're going to deliver on that big, bold, innovative decision. So there's some questions there. We have paratransit enhancements that are needed. The entire time that I have been here, I've heard complaints about Jaunt, while I've heard praise and support for Jaunt. And I think there's additional work that we may need to do with them to identify what else we can do to improve that service, and that's going to come at a cost because those funds pass through us. There was, as the transit director pointed out, continuation of fare free. That's a cost. We have to eat that cost if that is our priority. There are capital projects expansions that are required for a lot of the things that we're talking about in the climate space specifically that have to be paid for, and also reminded that today, city pays for that only, not anyone else. We have to make sure that we continue the conversation with our co-payer, and that is Albemarle County, for any changes that we plan to make. We're not a one decision made by this body alone. We have to take the county along with us. We have engaged them in conversations recently to make sure that they understand where things are going, because I would appreciate them not being surprised the same as I do not enjoy a surprise. And then we are having to also wrestle with capturing the regional opportunity just beyond our current network, because where opportunity lies is an opportunity to increase ridership and bring more funds to us. All of that is what we have to do in reconciling what is really going on with the priority areas that we have. And again, we're spending a lot in housing. We're talking about spending more in transportation. And we have a schools request that is much bigger than it's ever been and will continue to grow. So with all of that, we can not lose sight of the fact that state and federal funding, it will be interrupted. It's happening already. The state has to then learn what the impacts are going to be and then what they're going to pass on to us in the way of additional costs. So I think it's important for us to make sure that we don't lose sight of this. Tonight was a beginning conversation of where we're headed with transit, but then we're going to add the additional factors to that as a part of your retreat, and that day and a half will be fully packed. We just settled on what that agenda is going to look like. We did that last week, and I promise you, you will work for a day and a half to get through the volume of things that we have for you. So I just wanted to make sure I give you that context as to what's ahead and what's next.
We'll see that agenda soon, I guess?
Yes, I plan to release that by the end of the week.
And one of the things that's important about doing all of this ahead of time is that we're able to incorporate it into our budget, and like you said, bring our county partner involved in.
Along the way.
Right,
That's
so
right.
it's not something we amend at the end and it all falls on us like we did last year.
Yeah, we gave you the affordable housing update, the annual affordable housing update in April. You got the transit update this evening, and you're going to have a joint session with the school board on the 4th. You'll hear about school facilities specifically, because that's the big ticket item that I want you to be aware of. So all three of those things, we are leading you to the retreat where we're going to go deeper. We're going to ask you to think long and hard, and we're going to ask you to make decisions. That's what I like to do.
Will the discussion about housing include a component about the unhoused?
It'll be touched on, but we're not focusing there. We're focusing globally on what it is that we put as our outlay to housing, and then you can get to talk about shifts.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
That is it.
Okay.
Oh, quick question first, just for the public's awareness. Can you share the dates of the retreat and how people can access it?
Yeah, so the retreat will be held at the Wool Factory, August 15th and 16th. It's an all-day on the 15th, half a day on the 16th. We will be recording that event and then posting it. There'll be a limited number of chairs available if the public would like to attend, because it is considered a public meeting, as you'll be convened with a quorum. But again, it's an action-packed day of writing on big giant sheets of posted paper and Post-it notes all over the place.
And will it be live streamed as well?
I don't know if we're working to see if we can get to that point, but if not,
Because
it'll
we're
actually be
off-site.
it'll be recorded and then posted.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're now at the action items. And the first one we have here is a public hearing and resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation public improvement bonds of the city of Charlottesville, Virginia, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $38 million. This is a public hearing and a resolution. Ms. Hamill, you're going to present?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Good evening, Council. Chrissy Hamill, City Budget Director. As was mentioned, this is a resolution and a public hearing for our upcoming bond sale. We are requesting that you give the city manager authorization to sell up to $38 million in new bonds. In addition, as we work with our financial advisors, we always look for refunding opportunities. We're asking for up to $25 million for that. Quite frankly, that's not looking as positive now as it was at one point, but we still are requesting the authorization so that when we go to market, if the opportunity presents itself, we'll be able to act appropriately. All of the bonds that we're asking you to sell have been part of the CIP plan over multiple years. As you know from prior discussions, we basically sell on a cash needed basis, so that means that the project has either started and we'll be reimbursing ourselves for expenses that have already been incurred, or we anticipate that all the expenses related to this bond so that the bond proceeds will be spent within 24 months of the sale. That's a requirement through the IRS to prevent us from having to pay interest, or what's known as arbitrage. So in this memo, we've noted sort of the areas where we will be funding the projects, or using the bonds to fund projects. Again, these are not limited to this. So in other words, if we have identified a project and there's a delay or there's something that happens, we're able to quickly switch and move the proceeds to another bond that you have previously approved as part of the CIP. And so with that, we also, each bond has to be rated. As you know, we're AAA bond rated. We met with S&P today. We'll be meeting with Moody's next week. And we don't anticipate any troubles with our AAA bond rating. We've not gotten any questions so far. And so with that, I'll leave it with any questions you might have or for the public hearing.
Okay. Any clarifying questions? Lloyd? Okay. All right, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Okay. With no speakers, the public hearing is now closed. Council, is there any discussion?
Just very briefly, I know this is procedural, but just for the community to highlight that, this represents, over $12 million of investments in our city schools, as well as over $6 million in investments in transportation projects. So I know this is procedural, but it's in representing very significant investments we've made in schools, parks and rec, public transportation, and I think that's just worth highlighting.
Thank you. I agree. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, please cast your votes.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much, Ms. Hamill.
Your request passes 4 to 0 inches. Is too big.
It's an AI government now.
Sorry. New phone. Item number 6, resolution appropriating funds for federal transit operations and capital grants, $6,666,809. This is one of 2 readings. Mr. Williams, you will present.
Good afternoon again. Garland Williams, Director of Charlottesville Area Transit. What I have for you is a resolution. This is one of 2 readings. Public hearing will happen on the second reading on August the 4th? August the 4th. What you have before you is a acceptance and appropriation of capital funds in the amount of $3,145,636 and operating assistance, federal operating assistance, in the amount of $2,640,880, which combined represent $6,666,809. The capital funding will be used to purchase vehicles, 6 diesel buses, and the operating funds will be a split 75% to CAT and 25% to John for operating assistance. We're asking that you, at the public hearing, we're asking that the funding be accepted and we be able to appropriate it.
Great. Are there any clarifying questions?
When will the buses be delivered?
The buses,
If
the last
all
one
goes
just
according
put on our lot last Thursday. We are
Amazing.
only awaiting on a head sign for that one. There was an issue with it, so they're going to ship us a new one.
A new
but-
sign, not a new
A new
bus.
head sign, new head sign. But all of the infrastructure to support the vehicles are being installed next week.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the idea would be for us to move this to the action agenda for next meeting. Does anyone have any concerns with that? Okay, so we'll move this to the action agenda for the next meeting where we'll have a public hearing and then the vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. All right, next item on the agenda, a resolution initiating amendment and referring adoption of the 2024 Development Code, Zoning, and Subdivision Ordinance to the Planning Commission for review and recommendation. Mr. Matt Alfeli will present.
Thank you, City Council. Matt Alfeli, Development Planning Manager with NDS. With me tonight is Kelly Brown, the Director of NDS2. On June 30th, 2025, the Charlottesville Circuit Court granted a default judgment in the White versus Charlottesville case involving the city's current development code due to a procedural error. While the city awaits the written order from the judge in the case and pursues legal recourse, staff recommends initiating readoption of the development code. By adopting this resolution before you tonight, that process can begin by referring the matter to the city's planning commission for recommendation and review. Once the initiation resolution is adopted, no immediate action is required from either the planning commission or city council, but initiation ensures city staff and elected officials can respond swiftly to readopt the development code if the need arises. Per state regulation, the Planning Commission will have 100 days to review the development code and hold a public hearing. With that, I can answer any questions.
Any clarifying questions?
No,
Lloyd?
No questions.
no, well, I guess one question. So we had been in a process of doing, kind of the annual review of looking at what's working, what's not working, making tweaks. I think that's obviously a very important thing that needs to happen. We need to be taking in new information, seeing what's matching our goals, what isn't, and be willing to adjust. I take it that process is basically on hold until we have certainty about where things are.
I would say the public-facing process is on hold. Staff is still doing that work so that when we can pick back up, the last, the item we were kind of interrupted on was having a listening session with the building community, with Planning Commission. So we're still wanting to do that, but we're just doing the back-end work so we can pick up once we have clarity.
Right. So things are slowed down but not paralyzed because of the uncertainty.
Correct. We're able to do some work on our end, still gathering, that information, looking what's working, what's not, making our internal recommendations on some amendments to the code. So yeah, we're still continuing to do that work. We just pausing moving anything to the public-facing side till we get some clarification.
Understand, sounds like everyone's in agreement. It's just very important to get there and accomplish that. But again, I understand, we need just certainty, and this is just a first procedural step.
Yes.
Okay, any other clarifying questions? Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
I make a motion to adopt the attached resolution referring the 2024 Development Code zoning and subdivision ordinances to the Planning Commission for review and recommendation.
Is there
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, please cast your vote. We'll do that by verbal vote. Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right, the motion passes 4-0. Thank you, sir. All right, the next and final item on the action agenda tonight is a resolution amending the FY 2026 budget ordinance to provide the city manager authority to reallocate funds appropriated for the Office of Community Solutions. Mr. Sanders will present.
So, councilors, effective July 1st, I made the decision to close the Office of Community Solutions and redistribute the team members across multiple offices and departments in an effort to right-size, right-fit, and reorganize in a desire for the most effective set of operations. Multiple staff members in that office have now all been reassigned and have joined their team. I should say all of them have joined their new teams. We have made a change to the budget office, renaming it the Office of Budget and Grants Management because we provided additional staff for that particular focus to align with the work that Ms. Hamill was already doing, and it actually now gives her a more robust team. So she's not up there talking to herself. She has other people to talk to. And then in addition to that, we have created a housing division within the Neighborhood Development Services team, specifically looking at our housing work to better analyze and connect to the ongoing big things that we are doing in bold ways. Our Economic Development Office has an additional staff member to focus on downtown mall specifically. And the city manager's office is taking on a position to focus on planning, performance management, and projects. With all of that, the goal was to do what we could to ensure that we are operating more optimally. So the changes were necessary in order to pull that forward. But we had already adopted a budget. You had already adopted a budget that allocated a little over $1 million in resources to that particular office. We have since engaged in the work to split that money up according to these various individual staff members who made up that team. And the goal is to now transfer those funds with them to their new team so that the work that they were going to do as this one unit are now going to get spread out over 5 or 6 different units. So because the budget was adopted and the budget is now live as effective July 1st, then we're asking you to approve the reallocation of those funds. So it's not going to cost us anything more, it's just putting it in the right buckets.
Got it. Any questions?
One, the role of a downtown mall strategy manager is obviously, fundamentally different than a redevelopment manager in the role they played. Is anyone fulfilling what that old role of the redevelopment manager was at this point?
I'll say that the redevelopment manager role was never really lived out as it was created. Part of what we hope to do is we'll focus some attention on the downtown mall specifically in the redevelopment space. But I know that we have probably 4 or 5 different individuals today that are touching on the various components to what a redevelopment manager would have done if we had actually fully operationalized it. If we find ourselves in need of that position specifically to do more, I'll look at bringing it back. But at the moment, I would say that we actually never fully deployed that role the way it may have been originally envisioned, because we actually occupied most of the time of the person in the housing space alone. So there's still a little more work to be done, I would say, in that space. I don't believe we're losing anything, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
See the wheels in motion over there. Anything else?
I see it too.
I'm good for now.
We can talk more.
Sasha?
Is this a single vote? Do we carry this to the next?
I think it's a single vote.
Yeah, it's a single vote. Because the budget's already been adopted, so we're just moving it.
Okay. So moved.
Yeah, so there's a motion to amend the FY26 budget ordinance to provide the city manager authority to reallocate funds appropriated for the Office of Community Solutions.
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, please cast your vote verbally.
Yes?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Great. All right, the next 2 items are written reports. Counselors, do you have any questions or need follow-up? This is the Ravenna Authority's quarterly report and the Sister Cities Commission annual report.
I don't know if it was even in the report or relevant, but just a very brief, is there any, I thought, the recent warning system that was highlighted recently was just a positive thing to just make the community aware of.
That's
that relates
correct.
to.
At the Sugar Hollow Dam?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone has any update on what it is or.
Wants to go into more detail.
My intention was to include it in the next city manager's
okay.
report, so
Okay.
that therefore
Sounds
it would be available for more. But ideally, what we have talked about in the Ravenna meetings was trying to make sure that we look at emergency management alignments, better improvements, and being able to notify the community when something happens. There's a bladder that runs across the top of the Sugar Hollow Dam that was compromised at one point. It allowed more water to cross over. It alarmed people who live nearby because they hadn't been notified that there was an issue. This will actually now make it possible that if something like that were to happen again, while it wasn't a catastrophic failure, it was enough of a failure that an alert would actually calm and allay any fears. And then if there were a catastrophic failure, there's a chance for us to be able to do better at getting that information out.
Yeah, I think it's just a clear example of there being proactive planning, preparing for, extreme rain, extreme flooding events.
We have also talked with Ravenna about making sure that they are plugged in with the city and the county as well, because their infrastructure is in our footprints and they support things that could happen to our various residents and constituents. So the goal is to make sure that from an emergency management standpoint, we're sharing information collaboratively, cooperatively as well.
But that was it. Thank you.
Anything with respect to the Sister Cities Commission annual report? I know that if we have follow-up questions, we can just ask those directly to the relevant folks.
I would say we probably should congratulate the Sister Cities team for their recent hosting of the group from France who were here.
Ongoing, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not over.
Yeah, I think they have a couple more days.
How, did you get a chance to use your French from years ago, Lloyd?
I did indeed.
Okay.
From 50 years ago, plus Google Translate.
Okay.
We did great.
All right.
I should say, I think there's a concert or a performance of some sort tomorrow by the gospel choir from Besançon. And if folks have not heard them, they're really very entertaining.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
And my former French lessons failed me, so that's
Okay. We are now at the final speaking opportunity for members of the public. Individuals may raise your hand to speak and be recognized. Each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Okay. Come on up.
Good evening, Council. Again, Roy Stolzenberg, resident of Water Street. I just wanted to expand a little bit of my comments earlier. I feel like I may have been a little harsh. The work that the transit team and the consultants have done so far is very valuable in planning. That said, I believe what you guys need to ask for is a menu of different options for FY27 service, including high-frequency routes, even if a baseline of 30 minutes on every route, given the budget constraints available, is not achievable. I think there's certainly a Title VI justification for pursuing that route, and any presentation where you can only see that as a baseline and high-frequency options in addition to that baseline don't give you an accurate picture of what the options available to you are. So I hope you'll seek that and be able to weigh it as you proceed in considering your transit options.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? All right, with no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second then.
Okay, please cast your vote.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. City Manager and Madam Clerk, for an excellent meeting.